I've seen this happen. You see somebody, they got a podcast, they got a blog, they got 12 books, they got all these things. It looks so professional. And then they have used what I call the duct tape formula on the back end. And there is no system doing those things.
Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast, the podcast that will equip both the seasoned sales professional and the more reluctant seller with mindset shifts and strategies needed to succeed in a competitive marketplace. Welcome back to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. You get a special episode today. Since we've started, we've had some of the best guests. And so we're going to do a mashup and we're going to pick some of our favorite highlights from the episodes that we've done previously. So enjoy, drop in the comments. Who was your favorite? What was the thing that you're taking away the most from these podcast episodes? And we'll see you back here next week. You said that you've been posting or you've been giving content for such a long time that your content opened a door for you. Can we just talk a little bit about that as well? Because I know, myself included, I'm just going to put myself right there, myself included, many entrepreneurs, many business leaders don't realize the power of showing up and being visible and being consistent and adding value with their content. But you have proven in that little short, comment you just made that really can make a big difference. Why was that important to you? And what would you say to the audience right now?
Yeah. So this is what I would say going into 2024 and beyond, as people are quitting their corporate jobs and we're seeing kind of a restructuring of how people like to work. Okay. Your personal brand, which is how you show up online, regardless if you're an employee or if you run your own business, this is how people will find out about you. And so putting your best foot forward online, having content out there that shows your expertise and what you do and what you want to do as a personal brand, you never know who is looking. And that's just going to open up the doors of opportunity for you. So I think it's really important, regardless of what you're doing in your business or life, is to look at your personal brand online. So that would be my message, is you have a brand no matter what you do. And it's getting more and more individual instead of I work for a company. It's this is me.
I love that. And I think that people needed to hear that, because sometimes you get kind of in that mode of nobody's watching, nobody's clicking, and you just don't know, because
I had no idea. I mean, at that time, I had no idea Netflix people were looking at my.
I bet they weren't. Look, listen to this is such just an eye opener. I bet they weren't liking. I bet they weren't commenting.
Hell no.
So you would have never known. And that's just the message I think we need to hear, is that you don't know who's paying attention to you. So just show up, right?
Yeah. And here's the thing, Tish. Okay. So my big thing is if you want more customers on social media, a lot of people are posting like influencers and not business owners. And I was on Netflix. So I'm always posting like a business owner, but now I'm on Netflix and all of my castmates have way more followers and there are way more influencers, but I'm not the only one, but they're all struggling to make money because they're all posting like an influencer. But my point is that when you're posting business content and you're actually making money, you won't see the kind of likes and the kind of views and the kind of virality that you would see as an influencer. So yes, people weren't liking, but keep posting.
Oh my God, that's
different.
So good. Yeah. And I saw that on your Instagram, actually, that post that you did about that. And I thought that was so powerful, because we collectively as business owners think that we have to have that virality. We have to be, the best known, the only known, the biggest, the loudest voice in the room. And I know for a certain that is not the case, because most people who buy, I know from me, online are not the people. I didn't even know they were paying attention. I didn't even know they were on my page, right? So
for me, what the turning point was and how I finally started selling consulting and coaching is it was self-value. Confidence I found was on the outside. Inside, what did I really feel about my offering? Why was I not confident about that? So for me, they were two different things. And when I found the self-value inside and knew my expertise and could see it helping people, and that, hello, I can help you, and was so confident in that, that's when everything changed for sales.
Okay, you're going to make me throw this iPad out the window right now, because
we have a lot in common, don't we?
Because you just said that self-confidence is like showing up on the outside, but the inner belief is what really shifts the game for most people. And I don't think people think about that. And you're so right. It's like no one's going to believe before you do, right? And so
it is a mirror. Your customers are a mirror.
oh
Literally.
my God. Yes. Oh, wow. That all of the people right now, matter of fact, I'm going to just talk to the audience because I know that there are some of you all who are like, what the heck is wrong? I was selling, everything but the kitchen sink in my last position. Now that I have my own company, it's not the same. Or I just shifted my model and now I feel like I'm a complete failure. It starts with your inner belief. It starts with how you see yourself. And you just said it, your customers are a mirror. And oh my God, that's so powerful. So powerful.
Yeah. And just like a mirror, Tish, I have to smile first before the mirror smiles back at me.
Oh my God.
So I have to find that like in my corner of my room when nobody knows what my deepest, darkest thoughts are. What are those about what you're selling? Honestly.
I want to know from your perspective, Cheryl, from an operational perspective, what types of things could potentially get us into trouble as we're selling when we don't have our operational systems in place? What kind of pitfalls do you think we could fall into?
You fall into quite a bit of pitfalls there. I think when you don't have a system that helps you fulfill. So let me explain that. Everyone is focused on the sale.
Mm-hmm.
We get the sale.
Right.
The client has signed. Now what? Now what? The next step is so critical when it comes to reputation management. You could, and I've seen this happen, you see somebody, they got a podcast, they got a blog, they got 12 books, they got all these things. It looks so professional. And then they have used what I call the duct tape formula on the back end, and there is no system doing those things. So you don't have a calendar link. You don't have something that is sending out the invoice. You don't have something that fulfills, like if you're doing digital products, and you don't have something that asks for feedback. People miss that one all the time. After you do a service with someone, you have to ask for the feedback. That's critical. And what happens when I say reputation management, what happens is someone doesn't get something from you in a timely fashion. And let me qualify timely fashion for a minute. Amazon has messed it up for all of us. People want everything now.
Yes.
So we know that. So if they don't get it from you quickly and they're having to chase you, they regret making the purchase.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Both of us working with clients, we see this happening all of the time. So tell us, if you would, even if you may not share specifics, but you're welcome to. What role do you think technology needs to play in the sales process as well as the fulfillment process to kind of alleviate some of those gaps and those issues and those potential chargebacks and refunding that may have to happen because we've missed some of those things? How would you direct a client to make sure those things aren't happening?
So from a technology standpoint in the sales process, I think that we have to take it all the way back to the beginning of the customer experience journey, which is before they become your customer. You should have technology in place. And when we talk about technology, it's all parts. So your website should be functional. No one's going to buy from you if you do not have a functional website. Right. That begins the know, like, and trust factor. People should have a way to contact you, which means you need to have a booking link. Next step of technology. And then let's keep it going. Now that you've met with them, you should have a way to send them a proposal automatically, to accept the proposal back, to be able to invoice them, to accept the payment. And then again, for them to either get on your calendar again or receive the digital offering. All of those pieces of technology should work together and take you out of the loop.
Ooh, say that part again.
You know, as business owners, we spend more time in admin, I think, than we do in our genius zone, in that place where it makes us the money.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to spend all of our time. Always boil it all the way down and make it simple. Girl, if you bake cakes, bake cakes. Don't be sitting around trying to figure out proposals.
What problems or potential legal problems do sales people tend to get themselves into in making promises and creating contracts and making offers and things of that nature? What comes to mind for you? What do we need to be aware of as sales professionals?
Oh, it's such a good question. So there's a couple parts to the answer to this question, which is that you're going to have the content of a legal contract itself, but you've also got the enrollment process. Yeah. And so often what I'm looking at when I am talking with business owners who either are their own salespeople or they've hired sales teams to do some of the sales work for them is, tell me about your enrollment process. Where do people start? Where do they hear about your business? Where do they learn about where do they intersect you? Like, is it live events? Is it online? Is it, where is it? And then talk to me about the process. How are you nurturing them into the actual enrollment conversation? And why that matters is because legal has to match the systems in the business. And sometimes those systems have to get cleaned up. So as much as I live in the land of law, I also live in the land of business systems, because when I see things not working or broken, I'm like, look, this is actually not a legal fix. It's a systems fix. Let's go look at your enrollment process and clean that up. And then let's come back and make sure that you've got documentation that supports that process, doesn't break it, doesn't intersect it in a weird way, doesn't surprise the client. So often it's a procedural or enrollment issue that can be problematic. And then, of course, the legal language itself matters. You have to have somebody drafting your language that understands your business, right? Because the other thing that I see often is people using business contracts that really weren't tailored or made for their business. And so they don't work well because they don't actually match, again, your business systems, your business process, even your language about how you might approach something. So there's a bit of digging into those business systems to help people have legal contracts, legal documentation that supports their entire enrollment process.
And I know you probably can't share like an example, but tell me what would the result be if all of what you said, we have those broken areas in our systems, we don't have the contracts that are very custom to our business. What are some of the things that could potentially happen in our business if we're selling with those broken pieces in the process?
I'll give you a couple examples. So I had a gal come to me. She was actually a resident of China, but she'd enrolled in a very high-end business program here in the States. And it wasn't until after she'd enrolled and paid that she was given an agreement that were essentially the terms of the program. And they included this very broadly drafted media release. So basically, if you're showing up to coaching calls that are in a group format, they can use those recordings, reshare them, use them in marketing. So anybody that knows about cultural differences could understand why, like, somebody in China who's really working to build a specific kind of business might be highly uncomfortable with anything that they say about that business or about their own personal struggles being shared on, like, there's a big cultural difference there. Yeah. In addition to the fact that that process, like, technically it's a bait and switch. If you don't present your terms that are going to apply to that scenario before somebody gives you the money, you're like, there's no other way to say it other than that's unethical. You need people to come in with eyes wide open, right?
Yeah, I promise you, there are thousands, if not millions of people listening to this going, oh, because that's a very common practice. And a lot of the systems that most of us use, it's literally like they get the payment first, And especially in sales, you want to get the money first, right?
And get that commitment. That's right.
Oh my God. And then you get the agreements and the terms. So you're telling me, and you're telling all of the Sold Out Sales podcast community that we need to go back and take a look at our entire process to make sure that we have that very clear and present understanding of what people are going to be signing up for right up front. And you're absolutely right. A lot of us have those wide open media releases. It's like, yes, we can use your words, your likeness, your image, all those things online for marketing purposes. I'm so glad we're having this conversation.
Have you ever gone to a networking event or a conference and found that although you made great connections and you walked away with a stack full of business cards, you still didn't have a real plan for how to get a good return on your investment of both time and money? Well, let me tell you, having a networking and sales planner is a way for you to be more intentional about the way that you network.
Hey, I'm Susan Gladstein. I'm a functional nutrition and metabolism specialist, and I got connected with Tish because she is a rock star at systems and sales, and so I downloaded the planner to help get my brain organized as I went through a rebrand and launched a new course, and it's really helped me sort of get things out of my head and onto paper so that I can actually do follow-ups and not just rely on my brain. So far it's rocking my world and making my business systems that were non-existent actually have some sort of structure. So I love it. It's amazing. And I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed.
I've been working with sales professionals for almost 15 years. And one of the things that I find is that when they don't have a plan, they do nothing. They sit at their desk and wonder what to do. Well, with this networking and sales planner, you have profit producing activities for every single day of the week. It tells you where to go, what to say, even gives you prompts as to how to interact with people that you don't know. If you're an introvert and you feel like this isn't for you, I have already thought of you because I understand exactly how introverts think. So this gives you the tools enabling you to be armed with words, with language, so that you can make your networking more profitable.
Hey everyone, Rachel Neighbors here from solo401k.com. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about how awesome this sales networking planner is that Tish put out. So as you can see, I have it on my Remarkable. That's my sort of e-ink planner. And this sales planner has been so helpful for me. So I'm an old school pay-per-click marketer. I do Google ads, Facebook ads, and I know how to turn advertising into profit. But I didn't know how to turn network sales into profit. And when I met Tish, this woman literally wrote the book on networking called, Networking is Not a One-Night Stand. And she's put that experience and that energy and those valuable tips into this networking sales planner. And I just think that it can be so powerful for you in your business. I know it's been really helpful for me and mine. One thing that Tish told me is, Rachel, when you meet someone, put them into your planner and then follow up with them like they're a lead that you've generated on Google Ads or that you followed up with or that you've generated on Facebook. And that has been so helpful and transformative in my business. So thank you, Tish, for this awesome planner.
Maybe you don't even like networking. You say things like, networking doesn't work. Well, let me tell you, when you have a plan in place, you have some intention, and you have the tools to be able to make it work, you will see a different result. My new networking and sales planner is a game changer. It's the difference between you going to an event, wandering around and walking away without any purpose and without any new money, and walking into an event with a plan, with a purpose, and being able to convert new clients into your business. No one wants to feel inauthentic and pushy or even salesy when following up. So frequently we just don't do it at all. Well, the profitable follow-up formula, which is in the back of your networking and sales planner, will give you the tools and the language and the frequency with which you should be following up so that it feels very authentic. It feels genuine and natural both to you and to the people that you're reaching out to. Go to tishtimes.com/planner to get your digital or physical version of your planner.
Hi, my name is Cheryl James from CL James Consulting, and I just want to tell you a little bit about how awesome this networking sales planner is. I started intentionally networking at the beginning of this year. And I have been using my planner on a regular basis, not only to get inspiration, but to track the people I want to meet and the people I have met, and to make sure that I follow up with them from week to week. So if you are looking to network intentionally and hold yourself accountable, this planner is a must-have.
And once you get your planner, you'll also receive a video series that's going to teach you how to maximize your networking and how to use this planner to get the best result and best return on your investment of both time and money. If you are ready to stop wasting time with networking and turn your networking into a sales machine, then go to tishtimes.com/planner and grab your networking and sales planner. That initial connection is so important. But then when we've made that connection, how would you describe the next steps to really okay, there's obviously some synergy here. There's obviously, I definitely know that I can help this person. I definitely feel as though they might be interested. What would you say is the next step without kind of, again, jumping right into here's my hotel room key? You know what I mean? It's like, what's the next step? It doesn't take it too far, too fast.
The next step is, one, put the hotel room key back in your purse, back in your wallet. That's step one. The first step is to make sure you reach out beyond the event, because that encounter was at best a minute or two, 5 maybe. So the next step is, hopefully you exchange contact information or you connected with each other on social media, is to then actually reach out and say, hey, it was great seeing you at XYZ event. I just want to connect here. Not just, don't use the word just, that minimizes things. I want to connect here. Let's have a conversation. I'd like to learn more about what you do. I'd like to just get to know you, period. But definitely reach out. It's great if you can do in person to schedule a meetup, but if not, Zoom works well. But actually just continue the conversation, continue to build that relationship even beyond that initial conversation. I remember I met a lady at a networking event in, I think it was maybe late April of 2020, and we connected on LinkedIn, fine. But then after that, she and I both said, hey, let's meet in person. And I may have told you no, I don't think I told you about this. I had blocked an hour on my calendar. We met for coffee in downtown Chandler. Do you know that 1 hour conversation turned into 3?
Oh, you did tell me about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we had to cut it off only because I said, my son's going to be out of school. He's getting out of school. I've got to go home. But we could, I know, have sat there for another hour or two, and we'll meet again. We said, oh, we've got to do this again. So that first step is continuing the conversation and not assuming they're going to reach out to you. If you felt a genuine draw or a genuine interest, then just as you would with anybody else, keep the conversation going. If you met somebody on the plane that you thought was cool, if you met somebody at a party that you thought was cool, you'd reach out. Well, the same thing goes in this instance. And I will say this is step number 2. Don't assume you're going to close them in that next touch point.
Right.
And step number 3, and I don't know if these are steps, also realize that person may not be your client, may not be your customer, but he or she has a network, has a community, and the better they get to know you, they can more easily refer you to people who do need your services or your products.
One thing that I notice is the consistency with which you communicate with your audience. Via email marketing for sure, in other ways as well, and without using social media, but you're still very communicative. So let me ask you this. Do you feel as though because you've earned that trust, people are comfortable receiving communications from you on a pretty much daily basis so that they continue to want to hear from you? Let's just talk about that. What allows you to be able to have that kind of communication, and how has that served your business, being able to kind of stay in front of people in a way that's different from what everyone else is doing in some cases?
Yeah. So I think you're referring to my my rhythms with my newsletter, right?
Right.
And podcasts and YouTube and that. So I do email my list 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 times a week. this is all value providing. There's opportunities to sign up for membership programs, coaching, etc. But it is meant to, like, every email I send is meant to serve and provide value. So this was an experiment that started about a year ago. And it's been pretty amazing, because you would think if you send more emails, more people are going to unsubscribe, less people are going to open, less people are going to click. And when I went from a weekly newsletter to like just whenever I had something to say, my open rates almost doubled, click-throughs have gone up. And if you think about how much the average social media person is posting, some people post 3 times a day, and some people post once a day. For me, my newsletter is my direct communication channel with the people who are interested in what I have to share. So why not send them 3 emails a day? If they don't like the subject line, they're not going to open. If they do, then they're going to open, and there might be some gold in there for them. And so for me, when I do my newsletters, I send out a video version, an audio version, and then like the transcript turned into an article version, so I can hit the 3 different ways that people want to consume their information. And it seems to be doing really well. People are very responsive, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from increasing the amount that I'm emailing. And so that's really just allowed me to stay connected to the people who are on my list. I mean, they gave me permission to send them emails because they're interested in what I have to share, and it seems to be working well.
I love it.
It wasn't until I learned how to access and borrow, what I call borrow visibility, from people who had built up these huge audiences, that things started to explode for me. And so step number 1 was I was a leader in front of people who were searching for more money, more clients, more recognition, right? Like they wanted that fast pass to more success. And then other people started to recognize that there was this transaction we could create. I had leadership stages, they had leadership stages or influential stages. How could we co-create or cultivate win-win visibility for each other? And I realized when we did this, we generated millions of dollars. If I tried to do it on my own, stuck, slow, arduous growth, feeling like a best kept secret. When we borrowed influence from each other, it exploded. It expanded quickly. And I went on to generate $1 million worth of business in the first couple of years, simply from leveraging the strategy of being visible on other people's highly successful stages. And there's some principles behind that I can unpack more if you want. Yeah. But then I went through a huge pivot in 2009, 2010. I changed the direction of my business. I went through some really difficult personal times. I kind of had to like reinvent what I was doing because I'd lost my mojo. I didn't feel really inspired and motivated by the work I was doing anymore. And I felt invisible again. I was like, oh no, I don't want to be here again, Tish. Like, I know what this is like. How do I get back to where I was? And I realized I could recreate the same process. I could reactivate that $1 million visibility by leaning into podcasts and virtual stages. So now, you can use the live stages. I think we're really seeing a resurgence in that strategy. But a lot of us, we don't want to be on the road all the time. So you can actually add in what's happening on virtual stages and podcasts and these virtual shows to borrow credibility and authority from colleagues who already have built an audience of our people.
I want to understand, Carla, how would you describe the correlation between fiscal responsibility, financial literacy in business to sales and really being able to make the connection? Because I think that people assume that the whole money conversation needs to stay over there, but I need to be making sales for my business and not understanding the correlation that they have. What would you say about that?
So sales is kind of the starting point. It's like, you generate leads and you're having the sales conversation. Ideally, you have some conversion rate that's happening with successful people moving on to paying clients. And what I see often, by the way, I'll just highlight this really quick, is that people put like so much friction between the offer and that paying the money piece, that they lose the client in the process. They're like, oh, here's a 12-step funnel process that I'm going to put you through before you give me money. And I'm like, sales school, deposit, let's go. Let's get working. The closer you can get to the sales school to money in the bank, the better, people. So there's that aspect of it, because I think we just put so much friction between the time it takes to get there. So once you understand your conversion rate, you know how many deals you need to go get or pitch before you land your revenue number that you have in mind. And then also the time frame it takes you to land those deals plays an integral role in your financial position for the company. And I think people are not thinking cash flow. So then they're like, oh my God, I go selling and I'm not landing or converting. That's a different problem we need to solve. Or if we are landing and converting, how long is that taking us? Is it 1 week? Is it 3 months? Then that also impacts your financial situation in a business, because you have bills coming every month. If you're not landing deals for 3 months, you should be working 3 months ahead in order to know you're going to land the money that you need for all the bills that are coming due every single month. So they're so interconnected and so interdependent from the beginning stage to the end stage, which is like cash in the bank because you've collected on the work that you've done. And then one last piece I'll add is this whole payment terms piece, right? Like people are like, well, in this industry, we do 30-day payment terms or 90-day payment terms, and they have no idea what that means for their small, tiny business that cannot withhold 90 days without payment, because guess what? In those 90 days, you had 3 bills come due for all the things that you needed to pay for, and you still haven't gone and paid for that work. So layer in, what is your payment term strategy? Just because the industry does it that way doesn't mean we have to follow it, and kind of you get to create your own rules. We've seen payment terms due upon signing a deposit or due upon 15 days after work is completed. Like, kind of keep that in mind, because that impacts also, again, your ability to produce money and have cash flow and be able to pay your bills in the business.
What are some of the things that you would say to a client that could help them to kind of reposition and kind of, believe in a better foundation so that they can speak from a place of power and show up differently? What are some of the things that you might tell them to do?
First thing is, I think we need to understand about how our mind works, Tish. I think there's a big misconception that, suddenly it's like putting on an outfit. Suddenly you can just put on a fancy outfit and then you're this powerhouse woman. It doesn't work that way. Or, it might work for an evening, but by the end of the night, you're going to be exhausted. The behavioral stress that really takes when it's inauthentic is incredible. So the first thing is to understand that our minds are prediction-making machines. We build however we feel are based on predictions of our past experience. So how do we change that, right? If we have this pool of really negative, unsuccessful, you name it, past experiences, how do you change what's in the pool so that our minds can build better predictions? We can feel things authentically about ourselves. We have to practice and practice and practice. It comes from mindfulness exercises, not you don't need to go into deep meditation, mini mindfulness, getting back and touching and realizing at your core and feeling your body again. Who is this person, right? What is she capable of? The second thing is recognizing negative emotions when they're popping up. I think that we get really good at masking them or believing them. Believing that these negative emotions based on an experience outside of us is determining who we are. And so that is a big part of resilience. And I think it's a lot easier said than done. And I know it is actually. But focusing first, if I were to give one piece of advice to you, the listeners, it's start with mindfulness. Start with being able to command your mind, being able to, in the moment, you're in that tough sales call, or in that right face-to-face, right? Even more, tense and important. Can you feel your toes in your shoes? Can you, just for a moment, rub your fingers together? Can you feel the weight of your rear in the seat you're sitting in? All of these things reconnect you and they will ground you. So like we talked about the saboteurs that are going and, you got the voices that are almost louder than what the person's saying in front of you. Can you reconnect and quiet your mind? Mindfulness, mini mindfulness is the most effective way to do it, period. It's been proven, research backed time and time again. Start there. And then we can build on really establishing true mental fitness and emotional resilience.
Thanks for listening to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. I would be so appreciative if you would show me and my amazing guests some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, go over to tishtimes.com/resource page and make sure you pick up your sales and networking handbook, especially for introverts. Also, I'd love to continue this conversation, so make sure you connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll see you back here next week.